What I'm doing today is a sour cream pound cake. I worked with a lovely lady back in the 90s at a community college in Central Florida, and this recipe was my friend's mother's. Her mother had been a longtime school teacher in Central Florida, and this is Miss Lena's sour cream pound cake. So the first thing I'm going to do is sift some flour. Now the recipe calls for 3 cups of flour, but it needs to be sifted before it's measured. So I'm going to put 3 heaping cups of flour into the sifter and go ahead and sift it. Now those of you who do not have a sifter like this, and as I understand it, they're kind of hard to find these days, you can use a strainer of some sort. Okay, so I'm going to grease and flour, and I'm using butter to grease. Now, you can use, and I've tried it before, to use the cooking spray. And with most every recipe, you can use the cooking spray successfully so that your cake will not stick. But it didn't work with this pancake recipe. My experience has been that it needs to be the pan or whatever you're using. This is a ceramic loaf pan. Whatever you're using needs to be greased and floured. Now I normally make this, because it is a big recipe, in a Bundt pan. But I'm not making just one. I'm going to make 2 or 3 of these loaf pans so that I can freeze part of it. Okay, so I've got my loaf pan greased and floured. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my mixing bowl. You need a rather large mixing bowl. And the butter either needs to be softened to room temperature, which I haven't had it out long enough. It's getting softened, but it's not there yet. So I'm going to stick it in the microwave and soften the butter. So I have my butter melted or softened. That's 1 cup of butter. And I need 3 cups of granulated sugar. 1. 2. 3. And I'm going to combine these with a little hand mixer. It's better for this recipe if you have a stand mixer, but I'm in the process of moving and my stand mixer is already packed up. Now I'm going to add the soda, which we need a 1/4 teaspoon of soda. So I've measured 1 cup of flour, and I'm going to put the soda into it. As I crack the eggs, I'm going to add the whites, put the whites into a separate bowl. I'm going to put the yolks one at a time into my butter and sugar mixture and beat after each addition. It's very important that you beat this batter a long time. You don't want to skimp on that. All right, so all 6 eggs are now in, and I'm going to start adding the flour and the sour cream alternately. There's some sour cream. So each addition of sour cream, I'm adding about a heaping tablespoon, like this. And the flour, I'm adding about 1/3 of a cup at a time. And then after each addition, I'm mixing for 20 to 30 seconds. Now, if you're using a stand mixer, just leave the stand mixer running as you make the additions. All right, now I need to add vanilla extract. And I'm going to add 1 teaspoon. This is a 1/2 teaspoon measure that I have. Now we're almost finished, but not quite. So I've had to clean my beaters for the mixer. Normally, I would mix the cake up with my stand mixer and then use my hand mixer to beat up the egg whites. Okay, so now we're going to beat the egg whites. Okay, so it's been raining most of the day, and the egg whites have not beaten up as light and fluffy as they normally would. But what I'm going to do is pour the egg whites, the beaten egg whites. You're supposed to beat them up light and fluffy. And then by hand, we need to fold the egg whites into the batter. Let me see if I can turn my bowl so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so now I'm going to put about 1/3 of the batter into this pan because I'm going to make 3 different cakes out of this. This is a good thing to do if you're going to gift part of the cakes. I think this recipe makes 2 of this size loaf pans. It makes 1 big one, either an angel food pan or a Bundt pan, or 2 of these, but I'm going to do 2 smaller ones. So it depends on the size of the pan. So earlier I preheated the oven to 300 degrees. So I'm going to put this into the oven and bake it for 1.5 hours. It takes maybe 10 minutes longer, but roughly 1.5 hours it takes to cook. Our pound cake is just out of the oven, and by greasing and flouring the pan like I did, using butter and flour, all you have to do is shake it a little bit and the cake comes loose, and then all we have to do is turn it on. And here we go. It looks beautiful. And I'm going to wait about 5 minutes before I cut it. Okay, here we go with the taste test. Let's see what the texture is like. Cut that one a little bit too thin. Okay, here. Let me show you the texture of this. It's very fine. It's a very good texture. And let me see what it tastes like. That is so good. It's buttery and delicious. I think this calls for a glass of milk. Very good. Perfect texture. If you found this video helpful, please like and share. And thanks for stopping by.